friends, and welcome to the CUInsight Network podcast. My name is Lauren Culp. I'm the publisher and CEO at CUInsight.com, and it's my job on this show to have conversations with all of the thought leaders who support the credit union community. There are so many of them doing such great work, and so together we identify issues that affect credit unions, have a discussion on some of the best practices that exist so that we can all learn from one another and improve our credit unions. My guest on today's show is Kent Zimmer, the CEO at CU NextGen. I am so excited to have him here. It's going to be a great conversation. So let's jump right into it. Kent, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lauren. Glad to be here.
Well, I am so excited to get to chat with you today, but I'd like to start with a little bit of background on you. Most of us didn't grow up thinking that someday we would work with credit unions. I know when I was a kid, I didn't even know what they were. So I'm curious, what did you want to be growing up?
Well, I can second that. I didn't know what credit unions were growing up as well. But when I was growing up, initially I wanted to be an accountant. I ended up getting a degree in sales and marketing. And throughout my career, I slowly, transitioned away from sales and into operations and have really enjoyed that.
Incredible. Well, what was the inspiration for you to take the gig as CEO at CU NextGen?
Good question. I love this question, actually. I managed a project on robotic process automation when I was working at Members Development Company, a collaboration of large credit unions focused on research and development. And actually, I wrote this, we were doing one-day workshops at credit unions. We ended up doing 37 workshops in 2019. And after one of the workshops, I was at the airport and I wrote down this idea on a napkin about how we could form CU NextGen and really help the credit unions. And it came to realization, and I was fortunate enough to be selected as the CEO.
That is such a cool story. I love to hear that. I'm excited to dive in a little bit more onto what CU NextGen really does for credit unions. So, with everything happening in the world right now, there have been fewer conferences than maybe normal. I think some of them are starting to come back, but let's pretend, and maybe it won't even be pretending, but let's pretend that you and I get to meet up at a conference in person. What is the elevator pitch that you give on what CU NextGen is and where you add value to credit unions?
Yeah, good question. It's been fun getting back into conferences and actually seeing people face to face. But, CU NextGen helps credit unions control the front end member experience. And we do this by connecting the back-end siloed systems. And sometimes they have a lot of back-end systems. We do that through our technology and innovative solutions. It allows the credit unions to really quickly pivot and navigate the ever-changing landscape. For example, our technology allowed us to launch an end-to-end solution for the payment protection program. We launched that in 72 hours, which was a lifesaver for credit unions and their business members.
Well, I think as we see where the future of our industry is going, I even think back to my background. I actually started out at a credit union, and you mentioned lots of different systems. I think at one point we had something like 38 different systems that all of the staff logged into for various things. So yeah. Definitely important to connect all of those dots there. The pace of change today seems to be faster than it ever has been, and credit unions face quite a few challenges as the environment around us evolves so rapidly. And so could you talk to me about your perspective on that changing dynamic for credit unions?
Yeah, this is a major challenge for credit unions. As more and more fintechs and even large retailers enter the financial arena, this continues to, what I consider, raises the must-haves when it comes to credit unions and their digital experience.
Yeah, I think, as we're really looking at where credit unions are going, I think kind of keeping up with change is maybe one of the top priorities for everyone and not getting left behind there. So are there any other really big ways that CU NextGen helps credit unions adjust and prepare for all of these changes?
Yeah, we have our member relationship management or MRM platform that gives credit unions what we call kind of the toolbox. It gives them the tools they need for digital transformation. And it provides them the flexibility to quickly customize the experience and, keep up with its ever-changing needs. So, we feel this is really important. It's the tools they need, meaning they don't use everything, but the tools are there when they need to customize and they need to update this member experience.
That's such great information and great to hear about the platform that you all offer. And it sounds like you put a really big emphasis on helping credit unions to be proactive and ready for all of these technology and other changes. So rather than being that reactive position or maybe a little bit late to the game. And so why do you feel that that's so important to be proactive? And what advice can you give those credit union leaders who are listening in today about the need to be proactive?
Yeah, I think about this when I joined Members Development Company about 9 years ago. It was my first experience with credit unions. And I was used to being a very fast-paced, businesses. And you start working with credit unions. And unfortunately, they sometimes move at a little bit slower pace. And so I think being proactive is so important. And credit unions have always thrived on excellent face-to-face customer service. But the landscape has changed now. It's digital. And now they need to be, proactive and meet these same levels of service through their digital experience. And being reactive really is no longer an option if you want to remain relevant.
I remember talking to some different fintech leaders at one point who were just starting to work with credit unions. And they were like, what do you mean it's going to take 6 months to get this project done? And we're used to it being like a week or two.
Yeah, I often used to think, it's kind of like moving the Titanic. But, that has so changed over the last 10 years. Credit unions are moving faster, and it's really fun to see that.
It's so cool. I think there's such an opportunity, and it's been a real pleasure to watch the credit unions out there that are really evolving and doing such a great job at this. And we know that member experience is essential. And as credit unions have really always prided ourselves on that superior member service. And today, good member service might look a little bit more like a good digital user experience or ease of use. And I'm curious, how does CU NextGen really come alongside credit unions to enhance and maximize that good member experience?
Yeah, you're correct. Member experience is so important. And, one of the key factors that we try to do is we give the credit unions the technology to 100% control the front end experience, like Amazon does. Amazon is the leader in member experience.
Right.
And giving credit unions that same control, no matter how many back-end siloed systems that we discussed earlier, that's just a huge game changer.
It really is. It's funny that you mentioned Amazon too, because I think a lot of times as we're evaluating who we're competing with in the world, credit unions sometimes will say, oh, this other credit union or that bank or this community bank or big bank. And really, as everyone as an industry has come to realize that Amazon and Google and Facebook are who we're competing with in terms of ease of use. And those are sort of the experiences that our members are expecting because that's what they're getting other places. And they're not using a lower bar for a credit union just because it is. So really interesting. I'm curious to CU NextGen is a really innovative company. And so from your perspective as a leader in the industry, I know we've seen so much disruption in financial services over the past few years. What overall trends are you seeing for the future of financial services? And where is CU NextGen's focus when it comes to innovating to meet these challenges as a whole?
Yeah, gamification kind of comes to mind. Obviously, there's a lot of experiences that gamify things and the younger generations really thrive on that, but at CU NextGen, we ask the credit unions to give us their vision of a perfect solution. Don't worry about if it's possible. We tell them, focus on the what they want and we'll deliver on how you can do it. And I think that's important because they're so used to feeling strapped about what they can really offer. And I think we've got to remove those straps and allow them to provide that vision and then figure out ways to accomplish that vision. And that's what we try to do.
That's so cool. I know that's sort of a key component of the ideation and innovation process is to kind of remove all those barriers and just dream big, brainstorm big, and then figure out how to turn that vision into reality. So it's really cool to hear about the work you all do.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap up the show, we always like to have some fun with rapid fire questions to let our listeners get to know you a little bit better. And so the questions are rapid, but your answers don't have to be. But I will dive right in if you're ready.
Okay, let's go.
All right. What is a recent purchase you didn't know you needed that has become something you just can't live without?
Good question. My Tesla. I have loved it ever since I got it. And now with the rising gas prices, I don't know. I don't think I could live without it.
That is amazing. I was just thinking that the other day. All of those electric car owners must be really, really happy as gas prices are climbing.
Yeah, I was just, I had to rent a car recently, and I went to fill it up, and I think it was like $92, and I was like, wow, I really do like my Tesla.
That is incredible. Well, maybe I need to switch cars here. When you hear the word success, who is the first person that comes to mind for you, and why?
Wow, nobody famous really comes to mind. But I feel it is so important to have successful people around you that you can trust and know will tell you what you need to hear, whether it's good or bad. And so I have a handful of mentors that I've either worked with or got to know over the years that I really consider successful, and allow them to, kind of help me along my journey.
Awesome. I think that network of folks is so critical for all of us, and nowhere better than in credit unions, where there are just so many incredible people. All right. A random question for you. What are you listening to on Spotify?
What do I listen to on Spotify? God, that's a tough one. I have 4 kids between the ages of 18 and 22. So typically I allow them to pick the music. So honestly, sometimes I have no idea what is playing.
That's amazing. Just let somebody else deal with it.
Yeah. I guess if I had to choose, I would probably choose country music or classic rock, maybe.
Nice. I love that. Okay. All right. Any books that you have gifted or you think just everyone should read?
Books. You're probably going to laugh with my question earlier, but I'm an Elon Musk fan. So his book, Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future, I feel is worth the read.
I love that. Well, that makes a lot of sense with with your car. All right. Let's say that the calendar is empty. What do you do to unwind outside of work?
This is an easy question. I enjoy traveling the country playing pickleball. I know it sounds crazy, but if you've never heard of it, it's the fastest growing sport in America. And it's so fun to travel across the country and meet new friends. I was fortunate enough to qualify for nationals last year and ended up winning gold at the Pickleball Nationals in Palm Springs, which was just, it was just, again, it's what I love to do outside of work. It gets my mind off of work. And if you haven't played it, I encourage you to go do it.
That is so funny. I actually have heard of pickleball. My partner is really into it, and I have been invited a lot of times, but I've never made it out there. So I will have to check this out. That's such a great fun fact. I'm
going to hold you to it.
Okay. All right. I'll pick it up. I'll let you know how it goes. I don't know if I'll be winning any championships though. Awesome. Well, we're going to link to everything that we talked about today in the show notes, along with some contact information for anybody who wants to get in touch with you and your team, Kent. But my last question for you is, do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share or final asks of our listeners today?
I'm really excited about the future of CU NextGen, working with more and more credit unions. And we have a saying, we love to make them wildly successful. And we'll continue to do that as we, blaze new trails for the credit union industry. We're owned by credit unions. We're for the credit unions. And we really look forward to just keep kind of pushing the envelope and allowing them to, again, control the member experience and really be able to move with the times, move quickly. And lastly, I would say we love a challenge. So if somebody has a challenge for us, bring it on. We will do the best we can to solve that challenge.
That is amazing. And what a perfect way to wrap up the show. I love the challenge that you all are always excited to rise to and making credit unions wildly successful. Thank you so much, Kent, for being on the show. We, again, will link to everything that we talked about today in the show notes. Hopefully, I'll get to see you in person, Kent. We'll catch up on our pickleball. But until then, stay well. And thanks to all of our listeners today for tuning into the CUInsight Network podcast. We will be back again next time.
Thank you.